Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat, the daily cast with your bartender from the OSR, Tenkar. So, I actually prepped this one. This doesn't happen much, right? Here's the deal. This summer, probably later in the summer than earlier, I will be crossing my fingers, running a campaign for my old gaming group. When I say old, I'm talking about my high school and college group that lasted until end of February, beginning of March of '97. So there are basically, and there are certainly variations to what I'm going to talk about, but there are, for the most part, four, in my opinion, general campaign styles. And I actually wrote this down. So hold on, crap. I want to get this in the right order. Adventure Path, and before Peter goes, oh, Paizo, that's fucking Pathfinder shit. Listen, we've had Adventure Path since at least AD&D, right? What was Against the Giants? What was A1 to 4, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Okay. Episodic. Now, episodic is how I ran games when I was younger, where, generally speaking, session to session, adventure to adventure really had nothing to do with the prior one. You kicked things off and went off, and the session ended, and it ended, and you kicked things off and went off, kind of like I guess like Magnum PI was back in the day, right? Before these dramas had continuing storylines. Maybe you had a multi-parter, but it wrapped up, and then the same characters kicked off a new adventure. So, Megadungeon. We all know what a Megadungeon is, but we don't agree on what it is. To me, a Megadungeon is anything where your characters can complete a campaign in. So I would actually put, and I've had this argument with others, I would put T1 to 4 as a Megadungeon. And others are like, well, but no, it's not limited. You can finish T1 to 4. You're right, but in my opinion, you're going to finish that, and then you're going to go on to, the G series? Or the A series are probably already too powerful for. Or we might just wrap up the campaign. It's a perfect campaign wrap. It has a beginning and an end. So that is an idea. The other one's a Hexcrawl. And I've run a Hexcrawl. Didn't run it well. I didn't prep for it well. I didn't understand it well. I gave too many choices, and I had no focus whatsoever running it. So I'm going to go over the first part, the adventure path. By the way, I'm going to give my players get feedback from my players before I run this, see what they're looking for. And these are just examples. Doesn't mean this is what I'm going to use. But Against the Slavers. And this is A0 through A4. So this is the reprint plus A0, which is kind of like an introduction, designed for levels 1 through 3, trying to make this a self-contained adventure path. So I figured I'd bring it up as an example. Now, the advantage of the adventure path is that at the end there's minimal prep, right? You know where your players are going to go. The disadvantage of an adventure path is your players don't have much freedom. If they stray off that path, they fuck you up as a GM, right? Their freedom screws with, dare I say it, holy shit, the predetermined storyline. I mean, I think the worst adventure path was the Dragonlance series. Oh my God. Things had to happen or else nothing happened. So therefore, no matter what happened, certain things happened. By the way, Hop Tea, they're not a sponsor. We don't have a sponsor. I'm talking with Mike about maybe getting a sponsor for Talking Crit. But if we do, it would be for charity. So, but if you like taste of beer and or tea, and want something that's non-alcoholic and no carbs, good choice. So now, episodic. I'm showing Dungeon Crawl Classics. And I brought up Doom of the Savage King. I think it's a... Ooh, geez, it's so light. It's in my window. Nice little streak. I thought it was a pretty decent level 1 adventure for Dungeon Crawl Classics. Now, why am I bringing up DCC when I'm going to be probably running Swords and Wizardry, pulling a lot of stuff, likely from Basic Fantasy RPG and other sources? Because if I do episodic, I think some of the best episodic adventures out there are for the DCC RPG, or even the classic ones written for the DCC line of 3rd edition releases. And they are very easy to convert to Swords and Wizardry or OSR style setting. Again, they're excellent standalone adventures as long as you are working with a group that isn't worried too much about how we got from point A to point B. Just kick it off, and if they're willing to run with that style, if they're not looking for, I hate to say this, a campaign that has meaning. Each adventure may have meaning, but there's very tenuous links from adventure to adventure for the most part when you're talking episodic. So, moving on from that, I'm going to bring up Black Marsh. Now, Black Marsh, Rob Conley. This is one of the finest releases ever for the OSR. Ever. And can I say this again? I'll put quotation marks so you guys can see. Ever. All right? And I don't know if you can see this on your screen. The price of the PDF is free. Free as in air. Free as in if you are an old school gamer at heart, old school gamer in actuality, and you don't have a copy of this in PDF at least, you're out of your mind. Softcover is $6.99. Again, this is probably easily a top 3 release in the OSR, if not the top release. And it has 82 ratings. It's got a nearly 5-star. Let's see what its average is. 4.5. I don't know how anybody gave this 2 stars. Nobody gave it 1, but I mean, it's spot on. So here's with this, you can run a Hexcrawl. Hexcrawl, people call it a sandbox. I think a Hexcrawl and a sandbox are a bit different. Hexcrawl is about exploration. A sandbox is about choices, right? You can, they both play out in some similar ways. But as Hexcrawl goes, Black Marsh is amazing. I don't know if my players want to put the effort into doing a Hexcrawl. Again, my first Hexcrawl, I fucked it up. I didn't know whether I was doing a Hexcrawl or a sandbox. And by the way, I'm not bringing up a sandbox for my players. Okay? But because, although I guess if I did a Hexcrawl, I would sandbox it with important pieces of information that may draw them like moss to flame, because you want to give them direction. But I would need to know a session in advance. What are you doing next week? Don't fucking surprise me, right? But and the last option I'm going to throw out in front of them, again, Barrow Maze. Now, this would be the Megadungeon. I'm not saying I'd use Barrow Maze. Lost City of Baracus is one that I've run before. Did run the whole thing, but ran it for good campaign length before the party decided that they were not going to do better than they did. They drove off a dragon, and part of the party survived, and they got part of the dragon's horde. And they're like, this is a high point to end the campaign on, and I couldn't argue with that. But the great advantage of running a Megadungeon is you kind of know the material as a GM, right? There's not too many surprises. They can't lead you off in the random direction. They're going to go back to the same well, and I don't want to say rinse and repeat, but go deeper and deeper. And a good Megadungeon has changed. It has environments that change. And it's not always going through the same thing. And there are great options for Megadungeons. Barrel Maze is great if you like dealing with undead, and if you like something that's broken down almost like mini dungeons or regular dungeons that don't have to be mega dungeons. You can run them kind of separately. Katma Castle, the Mad Arc Mage from Joe Block. If you like the crazy dungeons, the wacky dungeons, well done. There are a lot of examples of mega dungeons. I happen to be very partial from my earlier days of running T1 to 4. I think it allows you to run it as a mini campaign in the beginning, and then you just focus them down, and then they're good until like level 7 or 8. Come on, how many campaigns make it beyond that? So these are the options in general, the broad strokes that I'm looking at. And I'd like to hear from you in the comments section or the voicemail 347-509-5168. When you run a campaign, what kind of campaigns do you prefer to run? What kind of campaigns do your players prefer? As a player, what kind of campaigns do you prefer? Episodic may be better if we have a group that's going to be drop in, drop out. You know, if the players change in between sessions and you can wrap up an episodic every session or two, then you can handle the drop in, drop out pretty effectively without, all right, hand wave. All right, John's not here, so John's character is up watching the pack meal. Everybody else is in the dungeon. What happens to John? Well, he's not here, so we're not going to beat him. I don't know. Again, now maybe something to go, well, hey, you totally missed this idea for play. Again, comment. Actually, if you like these posts, if you like these casts, okay, comment, like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. But really, I do this because I enjoy your feedback. Your feedback is really the currency that pays me. That keeps me going. So, leave a comment. Let me know what you prefer as a player, as a GM. It might be different. You know, it might be, well, as a player, I enjoy running, episodic. It's less preparation, less stress. But as a player, I prefer a sandbox or a hexcrawl style because of the freedom. You know, there's that little, I don't know, those extremes that people have to deal with. I like to hear. Folks, we are still in the midst of the world of the pandemic. I ask of you, please use your common sense. Keep yourself, your friends, your family, your loved ones healthy and safe. Use your common sense. Talk to a medical professional if you have questions. Somebody you trust. Ignore the talking heads. Other than that, be safe, be well, God bless. Knock on wood. I'll be back again tomorrow with Bad Mike talking crit, 8 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday, July 7th, with special guest Tom Wilson. We'll be talking about his Back to Basics Kickstarter to reprint the first 10 first 10 issues of the zine. And I believe there's a stretch goal to re-kick it, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, folks. On that note, thank you so much. Laters.